It's raining. A bit of a little bit of a different setting today. I ran a brain sync. Just felt like it was time, yeah. So I got up and I thought about the conversation that I put on here this morning. And I thought about like how over dramatic the internet can be, how over dramatic the TV can be, even whenever they're trying to give you like real life, right? Because the truth is you're probably in your day to day going to run into problems like the problem that I had, right? Or issues like the little issue that I had. And it doesn't matter like where you are in the world, where you work, right? I could be a politician and this could be my problem, right? I could be a celebrity and this could be my problem. I could be anyone, anywhere, and have the scenario that played out yesterday play out in my environment, right? So then the question would be, what is the best way and how is the best way to frame that problem in our minds, right? Because it's all the mind. Yeah. Like when we're anxious about something or something makes us anxious, it's because the mind has an issue like processing it. Generally, because we have something within us that we've not dealt with, and therefore it evokes all the emotions except for the ones that it should invoke, right? Like that situation in particular, compassion, right? That should be the emotion that goes along with it. It's not damning the person, it's not, you know, uh, judging them, it's not. Uh, it literally only requires like compassion, understanding that life is difficult. There are ways that humanity has chosen to deal with difficult life situations, and the use of particular substances that are not good um, is one of them, right? Like we poison ourselves when we're already in toxic or poisonous environments. It's kind of crazy, yeah, when you think about it. Right? But one thing I can say for sure is it doesn't matter if you have no control and you're viewing life through a lens that leads you to um, drug use, chemical use, whatever, right? There's no difference in the feeling that they feel or the feelings that drive that behavior and what's behind it than someone who is completely sober, right? Than someone who is completely sober and feels the same way, right? Receives life like the same way or just finds it all pointless, you know? Like, there's no difference between like the feeling that drives them to cope with it in that manner and a sober person viewing the world through a similar lens, right? The only difference is how you choose to manage your perceptions or your views of, right? It's the only difference. Yeah. One chooses to like poison themselves, the other, it's debatable, right? It's debatable. Uh, gushers aren't healthy, right? Like, you know, it's like just something else that makes us all similar in this meat sack experience, yeah, and the physical experience, yeah. And I was also thinking, you know, they sell you this idea that you're supposed to like dedicate, you know, X amount of your time and go into debt for X amount of time and do all of this and that, right? To go into school and then find you one job and stick with that one job and do that one thing every day, right? How boring. Some of us are not made for that, right? Um, I would say none of us are made for that. Yeah. We're meant to continuously learn. But do you know what kind of videos are very popular? Wilderness, like bushcraft videos and stuff like that. And do you know what I think is the core um, appeal behind it? Is that someone is going into uh, an unknown area, right, with lots of uncontrolled factors in the environment, right? And they have limited amount of materials that they bring with them, and they are resourceful with what resources are available to them via the environment. So they make shelters out of, you know, trees and stuff that they find, and they build their little forts and their little, you know, whatevers. Yeah. And when you look at life, is it not the same, right? You are put here with many factors outside of your control, right? You probably have limited resources, yeah. And you have to take these ingredients per se and make the pie. But it is the making of, the gathering of, the doing of. So it is the journey of being in this unknown place, gathering up these whatevers, right? Learning through trial and error, etc. That drives I think we could just say drives like the human spirit, the will, right? I know that one of the best times, and boy, have I been thinking about this a lot. Yeah, because I was like, I really just need to like give up this lease. I need to put myself in a situation to where um, I need to put myself in a situation to where I'm just kind of in the wild, yeah, to where I'm not relying on the certainty which comes with its shackles, yeah, and working for this, right? The most liberating and freeing thing I've ever done, right? And I greatly miss it. Because there are some people who will argue, right? And they're generally people who are financially well off or whatever, right? There are people that will argue that, well, even if you don't like it, there are people who hate their jobs and they get up and they go to work every single day. Those are the blah, blah, blah. Life's not supposed to be like that. No. I really hate that they like spread that idea, right? Life doesn't have to be like that. It's a choice. It's a choice, right? Someone came up with that idea. Someone forced that idea because it benefited them, right? Because it benefited them at the cost of another, right? You're not supposed to hate your existence. Existence is not supposed to be difficult. Existence is not supposed to be 98% of what it has turned into, right? It's not. It's just everyone agreed. Everyone agreed to it, yeah. And then everyone reinforced it and everyone endorsed it, and here we are. But how we look at things and how we process our thoughts around our situations plays a big role in whether we're peaceful when we go to bed at night or not, right? Facts. What and who we keep around us determines that level of peacefulness. Yeah, I'm gonna throw the crazy cats in here, right? So, cats have been, back at the pasture for a couple of days, and I hate to say it, but they were a huge source of my anxiety, right? It was just chaos. Now I have lots of time, right? It's crazy, right? I'm going through the contrast right now. I have officially determined I am not a pet person. I do not want any pets. I don't. Right? And I will say this again. Probably gonna get some people. How could you? No, how could you? Right? How could you? How could you? How could you? Yeah? How would you be so selfish that you thought that it was your duty to domesticate these wild things, right? And take away their natural and biological like abilities. How could you? Right? Right? Like, who are we to take things from their natural states? Yeah. And furthermore, go complain about people doing that to you. Yeah. Would you like for me to keep you boxed into a little box, right? No, you wouldn't, right? But you're not looking at it like that, right? You're not considering all the factors behind it, right? My cats were going over to the landlord's house in the landlord's house, right? Because he has like this little secret kitty passageway, right, for his cats. And they were going over there and bothering those two cats, right? And they liked being outside. I live in a pretty small space, right? Because it's just me. And I tested them. They did not like being um, not allowed to go outside. Not at all. I can't do that to them, right? I'm not going to do it to them. So, where they came from, there is a huge, it's a ton of farmland, right? The rest of their family is there. They can run as freely as they want and live out their Charlotte's Web dream without anyone bothering them. Okay. And still have what they need. It was a solution and the best solution. Like, logically. And emotionally, right? Emotionally for them, for me, for my landlord, right? So, right. Once again, people want to see service and they want to have a say, they want to have an opinion, but they are not in the situation, right? So, just like the lady at work, I could have an opinion, I could have a say, or want to have a say on her behavior, right? Or her whatever, but that is not my place, right? If it is affecting me, like the thing with that, like, yeah, right, that's affecting me. But I am only viewing surface, right? Like, I don't know everything else, right? So it's best for me not to say what she should or shouldn't do, right? It is best for me to just say the world is hard to cope with, yes, because then I can understand, right? I can have compassion for her for whatever, right? Like, and that's not an excuse, right? Just think of someone very close to you, right? Because that seems to always like put people's perspective back into the to right order, right? When it's someone that you care about or someone that you're very close to, generally your feelings on how you feel or respond to that person is going to be a lot different than just some random person, right? But if you looked at every random person, like, well, that could be me, or I've been in a situation. How did I feel in these situations, right? Like, or that could be, my mother, my sister, my aunt, my cousin, my whoever, right? It could be, it very well could be someone that I love and care about, right? And I wouldn't treat them um, harshly, right? That's why I don't understand a world that runs around judging one another so harshly. Like, you're supposed to be like family, right? Like, in the bigger picture, you're supposed to be like brotherly, sisterly, whatever, right? But that seems to get lost on in the practice area, right? Right? Everything is good when it's just said, but what should you be confronted with these things, right? It just seems like people have a very difficult time, like stopping for a moment and thinking, well, that could be, you know, and how would I feel? And that'll also keep you from experience, and that could be, and how do I feel, right? Because the universe does have a very funny way has a very funny way of correcting us. Yeah. So I try to stay off of that end, after I noticed it was like a thing. But it can be useful too, right? Like sometimes I feel like I'll be like, is my perception wrong? Am I not? Am I seeing this situation clearly? Right? And if I'm not, then the universe put me in a similar situation and I can see why, right? When we understand the why, then we understand things, right? So, you know, just gonna go down, go to work. Right? She's not in that office majority of the time. She's down at the other one, I think. Like, just gonna go into work. I'm gonna have a good evening. Yes, not gonna gossip. Not gonna whatever. Right? No, I'm not gonna spread rumors. Not gonna do that. I'm gonna keep our mouths closed and may mention it to the supervisor. Hey, smell a little funky in here, right? Because what if, let's just say, what if it's not that and there is a chemical problem, right? I don't know where we would, but still, But yeah, there are a lot of people who are going to want to like give you spiritual advice, like on YouTube. It's going to be very loud. It's going to be very overproduced, and it is going to be glossy, and it's barely going to help you, right? I see that a lot of the spiritual community wants to like talk about things that they've not actually accomplished, right? Like it's some sort of trend or fad, and they have nothing to show for it. The real thing is much more mundane. It's much more mundane. Uh, it is much more tedious in the way of having to dissect everything in your interactions during the day, right? Like that particular incident is the forefront of incident. What am I learning from all of this? How can I apply all of this to, experiences that I've had or whatnot? Should I meet this experience again in the future? Um, is there a way that I responded or thought about it that I could refine? And the only way to figure that out is to have these conversations with yourself, right? And make sure that you stay in a place of compassion and neutrality, right? And not judgment, right? And it gets difficult. It gets difficult whenever it affects you, right? Like the smell like overwhelming my senses yesterday between one event to the next event to that one, right? It's not specifically that singular event, right? But it was these other things that were piling up before that thing. So it'd be very easy to take out all of that, right? But all of that wasn't that. Okay, no, all of that wasn't her. But it'd be very easy because there's a body and a person behind that, and not the other two, right? That is a flaw that the humans have tendency. Yeah, because you think about it, like you go through your day, and maybe you break a doorknob, and then you go to your car, and you break the door handle, and you like all of these little tiny things that aren't linked to any humans except for you, right? Like you were opening the doorknob broke. You were opening the door to your car, and the door, those aren't related to humans. It's you going through the normal course of your day, running into like an issue, right? A mechanical issue, and then you get one human who does something at the end of it. Yeah, and uh, and then all of that suddenly they're responsible for and getting the brunt of those events that are not related to them, right? That that is something among humanity that could really, really take a closer look. It could, right? Because it can be very easy. It's very easy for parents to take like things out on children whenever they're having a bad day, or spouses to take things out on one another whenever they're having a bad day, whenever none of the events that led them to that mood was because of the spouse or the child or the family member or whoever, right? Not because those events had anything to do with them, but they will take out all of that frustration on one singular person because they did not deal with it individually, right? Because they did not deal with it in a from a from an awareness, from a state of awareness. Those are real everyday problems. Those are real everyday issues that if we can learn to get a grasp on those things, then all else is much, much easier, right? Then things become like non problematic. But the real spiritual stuff is very like those scenarios, right? Because it's about controlling the self. It is not about controlling anyone else, right? It is controlling your behavior, your perceptions, your responses to yada, right? Like I'm one of those people. If I'm like super duper like frustrated, like this morning, like I will just I'm quiet. I won't say nothing. Okay, I won't. I will just shake my head probably and like sort it out here before anything comes out here. Yeah, I'm one of those people. It'll be sorted out here before anything comes out here. And sometimes I'm just so, you know. But there's a side of society that is very loud whenever they have like disagreements uh, or they're when they're in the midst of what feels like a Murphy's Law, right? Like when everything that could go wrong goes wrong, right? Some people are very loud about it. Some people, like myself, are just shake your head and just quiet and breathe deep and probably you'll probably repeat what the fuck like in your head like 900 times, right? We're all different, but the real spiritual stuff starts with the microscope in your life in these seemingly non-important uh, situations. A lot of people like to put themselves into big groups and around a lot of people, so they have a lot of interactions through the day, and that's not good because it doesn't allow you to pick things apart the way that you can when you limit your interaction in um, with others, right? And that's monks have a very, very controlled environment, right? They're around many people, but they're around many people that are similar, right? They're all working towards the same thing, yada yada. And rarely are you going to get that in regular, everyday, random world, right? And then you have someone like me who uh, intentionally limits interactions with others, everyone. So it is just me, right? But by doing this, I am able to, the information that comes in, it comes in slowly, right? These interactions and situations that come in slowly and controlled. So I can take the bulk of my evening last night talk about that one particular thing because that was the center of whatever, right? It's like putting yourself in a position that the universe can teach you what you need to learn for you, right? So I don't have a whole bunch of noise. I don't have a bunch of stuff to sort out at the end of the day. I don't have a bunch of interactions to reflect on and blah, blah, blah. I just have what I have. And it is what it was last night, right? It was what it was. So I can come home and I can work through that. I can speak through that, listen to myself speak through that. Am I viewing this proper way? Um, is the proper emotion applied? And you may say, oh, that's no. A big problem is people do not have the proper emotions, right? Their emotions have been desensitized through TV, watching things that pull emotions out of them. So they think that they have a real response to real things, but they don't. They have a real response to made up things, right? It's not real world, right? Like the situation at work, that's a real world situation. That is someone that I see every day. That is someone who I know is struggling, right? And it's someone that I know like has a good heart and blah 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 blah, right? Like, and just possibly is coping with that, but outside of just that one thing, right? Like this person is a good person, right? So that's a lot different than watching TV, right? It's a lot different than the response you would have to someone on TV, okay? But by limiting the characters per se or the ingredients per se, like in the daily pie, uh, it allows me to come home, look at my whole day, evaluate everything thoroughly, um, and figure out first off, how have I been in similar situations? Have I been in similar situations? Right? How did I feel? What would I want? Right? Like we should never separate ourselves from others, especially if we feel entitled to make judgments to them about them. Right? We should never separate like ourselves from the equation. Right? And I think it's a good habit just to put ourselves like in equal shoes or in their shoes when we think that we may have something to say, like negative or judgmental or blah, 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 right? Because the goal should be to, if we're starting here, maturity wise, emotional wise, it should be to work our way up, right? And the only way that we can work our way up is to make ourselves the greater part of the equation, right? Like, we have to pick ourselves apart. We can look at everyone else like a mirror almost, right? But people who go out and they have tons of interactions are distracted by a ton of like media and things like that. Like they don't have time for that, right? It'd be very difficult. Like I would probably feel overwhelmed if I was trying to do this, the spiritual whatever, and was just bombarded. My senses were like overloaded by people, subjects. I would feel probably like I was in a spinning blur, to be honest. Right? I just, for what I'm working on, what I want to accomplish, it requires the the least, the better, right? The smallest amount of ingredients, the better to work with. Yeah. So hopefully that because it's all continuous, right? Like I went to bed, put on a frequency, I wake up, I feel better, I feel more clear headed. The first thing I figure out is what's the first thing on my mind, what's the first thing on my brain, and let's talk about it, right? So that is meditation. That is a form of meditation, right? What I'm doing on this phone is a form of meditation. I'm having a conversation with myself, which you will see, and hopefully it will help anyone else, right? But you don't need to buy a bunch of products to put in your home, right? Like everything that I have is for a purpose, right? It is not because, oh, I saw this in like a metaphysical shop and I just thought it was, no, 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 it's got a purpose, right? Like, I just, I think what I want people to know is like the most extraordinary things come from the most simple, right? It's not the overly complex and cluttered. It's not that, right? There seems to be like the spiritual, which knows that like little is more because of limiting like factors and whatnot, right? I know that energy that goes into an object stops at the object, right? Right? That's the big secret. I know that energy that stops at the object stops. So that means if I put my energy into gaining objects, the energy stops, right? Because it's transferred into the object, right? So is the things that you pursue in this world, okay? And that'll be my little nugget of uh, great, great wisdom for people to meditate on. Think about that in your exchanges.